My name is Brenda Kimball. I've been a pianist and a teacher since 1984. That was my second year in college, in music school. And as I tell my story, the main thing I want to get across is that learning music is a process, and there can be some rocky places along the way. But I hope that if you're watching this and if you've hit a rocky spot in your progress, that you won't give up. Because there are solutions, and sometimes they take a while to find. For me, I'll tell my story, so you'll hear that. But it took a while to figure it out. But I'm really glad I didn't give up. I'm glad that I kept looking for solutions, because I'm enjoying playing a lot more than I did, and it also helped me in my teaching a lot. So the most important thing is just to keep going. And eventually, you'll probably be able to work out most of the issues that you have. But it is a lifelong skill, and it pays to be patient. So I'm going to try and give you a short version of my piano history. I started piano when I was about 8.5. When I was 14, I was transferred over to my third piano teacher, who was more advanced, and she had me working on Beethoven sonatas and, of course, Hannon, the virtuoso pianist. And as I was working with her, she started noticing quite a bit of tension in my playing, and I don't remember being aware of it before then. She noticed things like my shoulders creeping up while I was playing, which, of course, puts all sorts of tension in your back and your shoulders and your hands. And so she would remind me continuously to drop my shoulders. She also noticed some other things I was doing, but most notably that my fifth finger tended to curl. It would often snap into this position. But anyway, if you want to get a sense for what that does to your piano technique, if you would just curl up these fingers and then try and move these ones. And you can see that there's some resistance there and it doesn't want to move. So that was a source of tension in my playing. And while the shoulders, I was able to release the shoulders, that fifth finger problem persisted for probably 25 years. It did get better as I went to music school. So I worked with this teacher for a couple of years, and she tried to do a few things to help me relax the tension that I had in my hand, in my various fingers and my shoulders. But truthfully, there were some underlying issues that were causing that to happen, as oftentimes is the case with tension. It's a symptom of usually like a lack of balance in your hand, like you might not be balanced on the keys correctly. Could be your bench height, could be a number of things. And it was a number of things, but I didn't find out what it was till later. So I tried all sorts of things that didn't work, like playing Hannon, but like trying to hold that finger down while I played the rest of my Hannon exercise. That didn't help. Of course, that's just more tension. Anyway, so I worked through, I actually only worked with her for a couple of years. I switched to another teacher. My family moved to Provo, Utah, and she recommended that I take with a college professor at BYU, which I did, and he gave me a lot more Hannon and a lot of chords and a lot of things that prepared me to major in music. And in 1983, I started as a piano pedagogy major at BYU, and that was, a whole new thing. I hadn't been that diligent of a practicer, and so a lot more practice was required, and I kind of fell short. My first semester, I'm sure I didn't practice the 20 hours. In fact, I didn't even track my practicing. And when I got to my jury at the end of the semester, that's when you play for the whole piano faculty, and they give you half your grade for the semester. So that is your final exam. And I hadn't practiced 20 hours. I knew that for sure. I didn't know how much I practiced. So I guessed, I thought maybe 14 hours. And I was told that wasn't going to cut it. And if I wanted to be a piano major, I had to practice 20. So I did. And with that, I made a lot of progress. And I started to be able to play more and more difficult pieces, and just made a ton of progress. So that was great. But it was kind of sudden, going from whatever I was practicing before to 20 hours. And in retrospect, it felt like I was practicing twice as much. So that was a really big jump, and not only in the number of hours, but the difficulty level. So anyway, things seemed pretty good. But in my second year, my sophomore year, I started to have physical symptoms. And just to give you kind of an idea of the symptoms that I had throughout my schooling, I started to feel extreme fatigue. I would get a buildup of lactic acid in my forearm where it would be all pumped up like I was lifting weights. And it would have a hard time relaxing. Sometimes my fingers would lose a little bit of mobility. You know, when I got fatigued, I had a hard time moving them. Sometimes I would lose accuracy. There were times when I had numbness or tingling. Sometimes I would get sharp pains, and sometimes it would just be a dull ache. And I couldn't always tell when I was practicing. Sometimes it would feel great, and then later on, I would have these symptoms come up. So it was a little hard to gauge when I was overdoing it. But one time, I was working on a particularly difficult thing for me, actually several difficult things, but I remember this one passage, which I think led to my first piano injury. And that was a broken octave section in a Beethoven sonata. And it was a short passage. It was less than a page. And but every time I played it, I could only get partway through before I would start to feel like I could hardly move, and extreme fatigue and discomfort. Well, I'd been practicing this, and I went home, and I was doing something at home. I was not at the piano, and I was doing something where I was pinching with my fingers, and I ended up like twisting my wrist somehow, and I don't really want to duplicate that. But anyway, it was kind of an extension of my wrist along with squeezing, and it felt like something snapped. I really thought something broke, and like a tendon or something like that, and it hurt a lot, and it didn't get better. As the day or the evening progressed, the pain started going up my arm, went into my shoulder, went into my neck, and I couldn't even hold my head up straight. And I was having muscle spasms. And like if I walked for the next day or two, I would have a muscle spasm with almost every step. So that worried me, and I kind of wondered if I was going to be able to play the piano, or if it was all over. And but it did get better. I don't remember how long it took me to recover, and I don't remember if I even went to the doctor that time. But in any case, I gave it some rest. It got better, and that was good. I was able to continue. But unfortunately, this also became kind of a cycle that I got into, especially when I was doing new music or practicing extra, and I would have to back off and employ some of the standard things that they tell you to do in these cases, where they say, take lots of breaks, use ice, use heat, use anti-inflammatories. There was a splint I used to wear at night. And at times I had my wrists wrapped to restrict motion, and that actually helped. I should have learned something from that because I was overusing my wrist, but I didn't know at the time. So anyway, this went on, and went all the way through my schooling, through my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. It never stopped me from progressing, but it did slow me down a little bit, and it was a source of stress and concern. I did graduate with my master's degree in 1990, and I continued to teach, but I also took on a job doing computer technical support. As musicians do, a lot of times we have to take on other work to fill in the financial holes while we do our music. So I practiced a little bit less while I was working full time, and of course my symptoms subsided, but when I would take on musical projects, sometimes they would flare up again. And right around 1996 or 1997, I took on an accompanying job for a flute major who was doing her senior recital, and I accompanied most of the recital. And she had picked some very difficult music. Flute music is a little weird that way, that sometimes it's really basic where you just play a chord here and there, and sometimes it's insane. And she happened to pick a piece that was kind of insane. And I'm not even sure if it was written for the piano. I haven't researched it, but I wonder if it was a transcription. And that can be, transcriptions can be unpianistic. Anyway, I tried to play all the notes, and as a result, I started having symptoms again, and my wrist was actually killing me. And during this time, my music magazine came in the mail, and I opened it up, and there was an ad for the Taubman technique tapes. And I was familiar with the Taubman technique because I had read some articles about it back in the 80s, and I liked the idea that Dorothy Taubman had put forth, which was, if you play properly, you're not going to get hurt. I loved that idea, but I didn't know how to do it. And I had collected all the notes I could from her. I attended a workshop she gave, a lecture she gave at the Music Teachers Convention in Salt Lake. I think it was 1988. And I had her list of rules, like she said, don't overcurl your fingers, have a natural shape of your hand. And she said, don't twist your wrist, that puts strain on it. And she also talked about rotation. And so these were things I tried to put into my playing, but I didn't know how to do it. And back then, the internet was, just kind of starting out. I don't remember when the internet took off, but it really wasn't a thing. And there was no YouTube. And so I didn't know how to apply those ideas to actual music. And I didn't know how to apply them to my particular playing. I didn't even really know what I was doing, to be honest. I was unaware of quite a bit of what I was doing. I just had a musical goal, and I would just keep practicing and try and get to it. So anyway, so I saw the ad for the Taubman techniques, and I knew I wasn't going to buy them because they were $495, and that was for 5 VHS tapes, and there were 10, so that was only the first half of them, and I just didn't feel like I could spend the money at the time. So I called the number anyway because I was fishing for information. I wanted to know if this might be helpful to me. So I called up, and the lady answered the phone, and I said, hey, I'm having pain in my wrist. I'm wondering if these might be able to address this kind of issue. And she just blurted out. She said, stop dropping your wrist. And I was like, wait, what? This lady doesn't know me. She doesn't know what I'm playing or how I'm doing it. And yet she's telling me what to do. So that was kind of interesting. But I tried to follow up with another question. And she just repeated herself, stop dropping your wrist. So I don't remember how the call ended. But afterwards, I got thinking about how I was playing. And I realized that when I would play a chord, my habit was to kind of push down through it. Play, drop, and kind of roll into it. And I thought, well, maybe that's what she means. Don't drop your wrist. Don't let it go down. She may have explained it. I can't remember. It's been such a long time. So I tried to do less of this. And by the next day, it started feeling better. And that gave me hope. And it also made me really want to get these tapes. But I waited. And I didn't get them till about 2001 or 2002. So I waited 5 years. So I guess I want to say here, when I finally got them, they were very helpful. And they helped me find some places where I was holding tension in my body. And they helped me play better. And they really made a big difference for me. And so I guess what I'm going to throw in as an aside is, hey, when you feel called to do something or learn something, when something sounds like the right thing, maybe don't put it off. Maybe just do what you need to do and pursue that path. It would have been better for me if I would have just got the tapes. So I bought the tapes, and I ended up buying the next 5 tapes as well. And I just devoured them, took tons of notes, learned a lot from it. And in 2005, I felt like I'd gotten what I could out of the tapes, and I wanted to get some in-person help. So that year, I signed up to go to the Berkeley workshop in California, and it was a great experience. It was super scary. I'd never traveled on my own before, so that was terrifying for me. Honestly, it was terrifying. And Berkeley is not the easiest place to drive. I went the wrong way on a one-way street at least once, but I didn't die. So anyway, so I had a great experience at the workshop. I made friends. I got invited to go to some kind of like weekend lesson retreats that they had about 3 times a year in Portland, Oregon. And that became my habit, was to go to the Berkeley workshop and go to at least a couple of these weekend retreats for the next 15 years. I also went to a bunch of the summer symposiums. I went to Princeton. They had it in Portland, and they've had them online since 2000. If anybody's interested in working on Taubman technique, I would just say it's best to start in person if you can. There are people, that's a whole nother video. In 2019, I kind of added an ingredient, and that was I started studying, working on the Feldenkrais approach of it's a somatic movement modality, and I've also dabbled in body mapping and Alexander technique. You know, just enough to be helpful, but not to claim any real expertise in that. But those are definitely all modalities worth looking into. And what I found was, even with the Taubman technique, there were some elements that I had in my body that I had picked up in life, some areas of tension that were also interfering with my posture and my balance, and also interfering with my piano technique a little bit. So that helped me a lot to work on that. Is also, like I said, it's helped me a lot in life. And so if you're having some kind of chronic tension or pain in your body, that's something to think about. But it definitely has helped my piano playing and the way I teach piano as well. So I guess what I want to say in summary, if you're still listening, if you're a pianist, and if you've come up against physical obstacles and any kind of obstacles, honestly, in your playing, there's usually a solution. And your solution might not be the same as mine. I feel like not everybody, I know, everybody doesn't love the Taubman technique. It's been fantastic for me, but there are other ways of approaching that work for other people, and everybody learns differently. And so if you do want to improve the ease of movement, consider working with somebody who is an expert in that area. And what I intend to do here with this channel is to give some hints of things that can reduce your tension in your playing and improve your accuracy, so you won't have to practice so much. And along with that, if you can master it and not have to practice it so much, you'll have less wear and tear on your body, and you'll be less likely to have any kind of performance injury. So the advantage that you have over what I had is, you know, I had nobody within 750 miles of me when I wanted to learn the Taubman technique. And I had to travel every time I wanted to have a lesson. And I wasn't adept at Skype at the time. That was the only online option. I don't even know when that started. But I had to fly to have lessons. And so it was expensive and time consuming, and it was kind of drawn out because I couldn't do it every week. There would be months between lessons, and then I would have a few lessons, and then I would go home and work on it and then come back. So it was kind of a slow process and a little bit of a learning disadvantage, but but the videotapes were very helpful to me. They got me partway there. They were helpful. And so YouTube is a video platform. And so it's something that you can try. You can try some of these things at home. If it doesn't work for you, or if it doesn't feel good, to stop doing it and try something else. And anyway, I wish you luck on your journey. My goal in this channel is to give people other options, other ways of approaching problem solving at the piano, other than just practicing more and doing more exercises, more about how to move. I've heard the phrase, a lot of people talk about working smarter, not harder. And I have to say that's basically what the Taubman approach is about, and some of these other things. It's becoming more aware and doing stuff that works instead of just working hard. And anyway, best of luck on your journey, and subscribe if you want to see my future videos.